Hello children, I once again welcome you all for English class. Through this video, we will understand the chapter from your first flight textbook under the name Madam Rides the Bus, written by Vallikkannan. This is a sensitive story of an 8-year-old girl whose name is Valli and about her first bus journey into the world outside her village. The journey takes her into the mystery of life and death. She finds the gap between our knowing that there is death and our understanding of it. Valli Ammai, who was called Valli in short, was very curious about things. Her favorite pastime was standing in the front of the doorway of her house and watching what was happening in the street outside. There were no playmates of her own age on her street, and that was about all she had to do. Valli enjoyed standing at the front door. The most fascinating thing of all was the bus that travelled between her village and the nearest town. The bus passed through her street each hour, once going to the town and once coming back. The sight of the bus, filled each time with a new set of passengers, was a source of unending joy for Valli. Every day, Valli watched the bus, and gradually a tiny wish crept into her head and grew there. A ride in that bus, even just once. The wish became stronger and stronger until it was an overwhelming desire. Valli would stare longingly at the people who got on or off the bus when it stopped at the street corner. Their faces would kindle in her longings, dreams and hopes. If any of her friends happened to ride the bus and tried to describe the sight of the town to her, Valli would be too jealous to listen. Over many days and months, Valli listened carefully to conversations between her neighbors and people who regularly used the bus. She also asked a few discreet questions from here and there, and this way she picked up various small details about the bus journey. The town was 6 miles from her village. The fare was 30 paise one way. The trip to the town took 45 minutes. That on reaching town, if she stayed in her seat and paid another 30 paise, she could return home on the same bus. With all these details, Valli calculated her journey time in the bus. She also saved whatever stray coins came her way, resisting every temptation to buy peppermints, toys, balloons and many more things. When she had saved a total of 60 paise, she decided to take the bus ride. But then again, there was a problem of slipping out of her house without her mother's knowledge. This also Valli managed. Every day, her mother took a nap in the afternoon. It was these hours that Valli used for her excursions as she stood looking from the doorway of her house. Sometimes she had even ventured out into the village during these hours. So, one fine spring day, the afternoon bus was just on the point of leaving the village and turning into the main highway. When Valli stopped it and got into it, since it was the slack time of day, there were just a few passengers in the bus. Valli felt shy when all of them looked at her and laughed with the conductor. As the bus started moving, Valli started to look out of the window and enjoy whatever came on her way. Valli, being a small child, proved to be extremely matured and bold when people stared at her while travelling all alone. Suddenly, a young cow started running very fast into the middle of the road right in front of the bus. The bus slowed to a crawl and the driver sounded his horn loudly again and again and finally moved off the road. This was an amusing sight for Valli, who clapped her hands and laughed at that. The bus resumed its journey and dropped off all the passengers except Valli. Unmindful of the surprised look of the conductor, Valli remained in the bus till it was the time for it to begin the return journey. Again, there weren't many passengers in it. Valli was not bored in the slightest and greeted everything with the same excitement she had felt the first time. But suddenly, she saw a young cow lying dead by the roadside, just where it had been struck by some fast-moving vehicle. When she came to know that it was the same cow that ran in front of her bus on its trip to town, Valli was overcome with sadness. What had been a lovable, beautiful creature a little while ago had now suddenly lost its charm and its life and looked so horrible and frightening as it lay there, legs spread, a fixed stare in its lifeless eyes, and blood all over its body. The bus moved on, but the memory of the dead cow haunted Valli, dampening her enthusiasm. She no longer wanted to look out of the window. She just sat glued to her seat until the bus reached her village. When she entered her house, she found her mother awake and talking to one of her aunt. This aunt asked Valli where she had been, but Valli just smiled. Her mother was just casually telling the aunt that even when we know about something, we often cannot understand it completely. Valli just reacted in affirmation to the statement and smiled to herself. She didn't want them to understand her smile. Knowing within herself that she had understood and experienced a few hours before whatever her mother had been saying to her aunt. With this explanation, we have come to the end of this story.